Welcome to the final quarterfinals match of the Circular Chess Championship. The matchup today is 3rd seed MattyZero versus 6th seed Matteo. The winner takes the last semifinal spot and will play live next week against 2nd seed Toby KYR. These two players had the highest standard chess elo of all players coming into this tournament, so I know this is going to be a good match. With that being said, let's get right into it. All right, so Matteo starts off game one with the white pieces. He starts with the queen's pawn. Usually we see the king's pawn. That's what Matty does, pushes the king's pawn. And now Matteo does the king's pawn. Then we see the queen's pawn from Matty. Queen's pawn keeps pushing for both players. Looks like both players going for quick promotions. Now both players one square away. Neither player wanting to block promotion, instead just going for the trade. Both players to get a rook. Now Matteo pushing another pawn. Matty now bringing his bishop in. This does check the king, so he's not losing a move as far as promotions go. And there also might be an opportunity to maybe attack this rook at some point. The bishop comes into block. That cuts off this square for the bishop. Instead, now the queen coming down, still defending this rook if anything happens, and now also defending this bishop. Matteo takes the bishop. Now instead of a bishop here, Matty has the queen, plus this knight is no longer defended. Matteo now blocking with his queen. This preserves castling rights. He also could have blocked with his knight, but what this also does is put the defense back on the knight, so Matty can no longer capture it. Now this queen coming in, we've seen this pawn is very fragile unless you do something to defend it. Matteo defends it with his knight. Of course, that won't last too long. He can't push it again without it being undefended once again. Now Matty moving his knight out of the way because a couple moves ago, let's go back, as soon as he moved this queen, he lost defense of this knight. His dark terror bishop's no longer in the game. So now he gets his knight out of the way and the rook now attacking the queen, forcing it to go somewhere else. It just simply slides back. And sorry guys, I just realized that I wasn't using my test version of the game that has the eval bar in the material value. I just switched to that and we'll continue with the replay. So Matteo brings his knight out of the way, potentially of this rook. Of course, it would have still been defended by the queen, but now he can move this queen out of the way without risking his knight. Matty now pushing his pawn, either looking to promote while this rook defends, or maybe simply sliding this rook into the game somehow. White brings his knight out. Now he can castle whenever he'd like. And this would put the rook on this square, so you'd have 3 pieces on this file. This queen comes in now. It attacks this knight. It's only defended by this rook, and this also puts pressure on this pawn. Of course, it's defended by the queen, but I think what he might want to do is either wait till this rook moves so he can take the knight, or just maybe put pressure on these 2 pawns. Castling does happen. Like usual, for some reason the bot absolutely hates this move, but I think it's fine. Now Matty pinning the queen to the king. This all but forces a queen trade, as long as either Matteo or Matty wants to go for it. Matteo simply takes, and the trade happens. And the eval bar now back to even. Material value is the same. Matteo now puts his rook on the central ring. It's not quite a rook blunder because it's defended, but if this trade happens, it'll force Matteo to have a somewhat open back rank. But Matty doesn't want to trade. This did attack this knight, but now this knight comes in to defend. This pawn now undefended, I believe. And now Matty continues to push his pawn. Matteo putting a second rook towards the center, now attacking this rook. Matty simply trades. The trade goes through, and now he keeps pushing. Matteo has an opportunity to trade a knight for pawn here. He doesn't, though, instead bringing his bishop all the way in to attack this knight, and Matty now defending it with his own bishop. The trade doesn't happen. Instead, he moves this knight, and now... See, if he moved this way, he still would have been defending the promotion square, but now he would have to take this knight, but I'm sure Matty will just do that first. He does. Now the rook will take. Instead, he goes for the bishop first, which is fine, an in-between move. Matty takes with the knight, then Matteo takes with his rook. Material still even, but the bot heavily favoring black here, and I think this might be why. He simply pushes a pawn. Now, the only thing he could potentially do to stop it is sacrifice his rook, and he doesn't. Instead, is pushing his own pawn. Matty gets a 3rd rook. Now Matteo defending the promotion square. The plan obviously is going to be to push this pawn, but at the very least, he'll only have to lose a knight for it if he goes here first. That at least puts off promotion for another couple of moves. He finds it, and now this move, he pushes the pawn, and all Matty has to do is sacrifice the knight. I'm sure that's what he's going to do. He does. Now Matteo at least has 2 rooks, not in the center, but close. The fact that Matty has the center means that he can just keep pushing. Matteo tries to do the same. They're both pushing pawns. Matty now brings this rook up to the 4th rank. I think it's completely, except for his own pawn, it's completely open. Matteo pushing again. Now we see the point of the move. He can defend this promotion without having to get out of the way of his pawn first. Matteo simply tries to promote still. He does have this move, which would at the very least allow him to promote. Of course, the knight also defending the promotion square. But Matty finds this move. And what does it do? The bot loves it. I believe, okay, so after check, the only legal move is either block, which doesn't do much, or block with the knight. Then after blocks with knight, if this rook's here, this rook comes in, and I think That's just checkmate. But before Matty has a chance to check, Matteo simply blocks with his own rook. But this will force a rook trade, but Matty doesn't go for it. Instead, bringing another rook in so that this trade can potentially be on Matteo's terms, he instead promotes, which will end up being a rook for a pawn and knight. And it looks like this trade is going to come through. Matty taking with this rook instead. Now these two rooks staring down this king. Matteo, of course, has these two rooks as well to defend, and this knight defending this square along with the king. Although the king looks like he's in a lot of danger, it's not quite so bad. These pieces are just kind of stuck where they are. Matteo now, though, pushes one of his pawns. Matty's significantly closer to promotion. They're both going to try to promote, but instead, Matty moving his rook up. Now this pawn is not allowed to push, but Matteo finds a fork on these rooks. The only problem is, knowing how Matty plays, I'm sure he's going to see it. He can find this check, and after blocks, he can just simply get his other rook out of the way. He does find the check. Knight comes into block, and now he slides his rook over, attacking this pawn, which is not defended. Matteo blocks with his own rook, but this looks like it's just going to be a rook trade, and that is what happens. Matty now bringing a knight in, and Matteo responds by pushing again. Now we'll have to waste another move, getting this rook out of the way, but he can also take claim of the center. This is probably pretty important. Matty can't quite because of this knight. He has to move over first before he does it. The center is very important, especially in these promotion-heavy endgames, so perhaps a missed opportunity from Matteo. Matty moves his knight. Matteo now attacking this pawn, but it's not really under attack because it's defended by this knight. Matty now pushing a pawn. It is under pressure from this rook, but of course defended by his other knight. Now Matteo finally takes the center, but black gets to come in and defend the promotion square. I think if Matty finds this move, he's going to be okay. He does. Okay, so now Matty could just start pushing another pawn. Instead, he brings his rook in, now probably realizing that Matteo can just push this pawn. So Matteo just blocks the promotion. Matty can trade if he would like. He's still defending this pawn. He does go for the trade. Now just moving his knight closer to the center. Matteo pushing another pawn. The knight comes closer. And now this move, the bot doesn't like. I'm not sure exactly why. Potentially because this knight move will just allow black to promote. He doesn't find the knight move though. Instead, just pushing a pawn to defend this knight. And I believe the bot hates this move because this knight move is again available, but he doesn't find it. Both players with about a minute left, so this is officially a time scramble. Matteo now one square away from promotion, and his pawn's defended. So Matty trying to push again. Matteo gets the rook first, and then Matty promotes. Two rooks for Matteo, both attacking. So after takes, and Matty can't promote this pawn, he could potentially, after all these trades happen, bring his rook in and then do this move that we've seen a few times. Matteo does take, the knight takes, now this rook slides over, so we'll see what I was talking about. If now Matty moves his rook over here first and then slides down, the capture would lead to another promotion. And of course I didn't realize, but this was check, so first he has to move his king, and that actually allows Matteo to attack this promotion, but this tactic still works. He doesn't go for it though, potentially because this pawn is still so close to promotion. And now Matteo pushing another pawn. We see another pawn race, both pawns pushing. Now Matteo's rook under attack. One of these pawns will certainly promote. The rook now sliding, checks the king. Now after the king moves out of the way, Matteo pushes his pawn, but he'll allow promotion. Promotion comes through. Now Matteo could promote, and he does. Matty simply takes his rook, and the trade happens. Now Matty pushing another pawn. Both players under a minute. Matteo with just 34 seconds. This rook slides up, now attacking both this pawn and this rook. However, if Matty takes this rook, pawn takes, Matty's the first to promote. He doesn't take the rook though, and that move certainly would have been winning. Now though, Matteo just moving his king up. I don't believe he was in check. Certainly not. So that move's interesting. He probably could have gotten his knight into the game, maybe even started pushing another pawn, but the king can be strong in endgames too, somehow getting in here. Matty now allowed to promote, and the king comes in further. Matty just going for another promotion. The king and pawn are moving to the center at the same rate. Matty allowed to promote a third rook. Matteo going for another promotion. This king, now we see the point was to defend this pawn, perhaps, but with three rooks on the center, I'm not sure if that's going to work. This rook coming into check. Matty just sliding backwards, and he officially falls under 30 seconds. This rook now checking. This looks like it's just going to be a ladder mate. This rook now coming in. If he can get down, well, this is defended by the knight, but we could see some kind of checkmate in just a couple of moves. The rook now sliding down. Matty finds this check. King slides back to its previous square. This rook comes down to check. King moving back. Another rook check. Matteo repeats. Matty now sliding his rook up to the center. Matteo just pushing a pawn. Matty doing the same. King slides up again. A third rook comes into the center. In every pawn push, the eval bar falls lower and lower for Matteo. Matty now looks like he's trying to get a fourth rook. Both players pushing their pawns. Matty blocking it. Pawn pushes once more. Both players just above 20 seconds. Another king move. Another pawn move. Rook now sliding down. The last second play, thinking maybe he can get Matty down to a material that he can't checkmate with. Instead of trading, Matty just promotes. Matteo takes one rook, but it's a trade. Now the king not really attacking because, of course, 3 rooks on the center. This knight is hanging, but simply finding a check. Of course, this rook still defended. King's forced to slide back. This rook moves over. Knight promotes to a knight. Very interesting. Not attacking anything, but maybe realizing that he's lost or just clicking super quickly. Matty doesn't take it, sliding his rook again. Knight comes closer to the center. Rook comes in, now finding check. King getting out of the way. Rook sliding over. Knight now blocking this potential check, but it wouldn't really work. Rook now sliding down, 2 on the same rank. King slides out again. Matty with 15 seconds, Matteo with 20. Matty's wasting more time than Matteo. This knight now attacking this rook, but it doesn't matter because another check is found. King slides out of the way. This rook moves out of the way of the knight. Knight slides up. That's just a blunder, but instead he just takes this pawn. King slides up again. With 8 seconds on the clock, Matty finding another check. But I believe if Matty times out, I think he still loses. I think 2 knights are technically sufficient material. This king comes up. Now this move would be check. I'm not sure if Matty will see it. He instead slides this rook down, not losing a single second. This is check. King slides up. Another check. King slides over, and it's getting closer and closer to checkmate. I believe this is just a ladder mate. Rook sliding down, and now the king has to slide here. It still wouldn't even matter because this rook is defended. It does, and then this move is still checkmate, and he finds it. After a very long game, taking up almost the entire 20 minutes total on the clock, MattyZero finds a checkmate and takes the lead 1-0. If the games keep going like that, we're in for a long series. But anyway, let's get into game 2. Now in game 2, Matty gets to take the white pieces. He starts pushing his king's pawn. Matteo again pushing his queen's pawn first. In most openings, the order doesn't matter, I suppose, but players usually go for the king's pawn because it allows early moves with the queen and bishop. But of course, Matty now pushing his queen's pawn, but Matteo goes for another queen's pawn push. Matty does the same, and now in this situation, Matteo would be the first to promote, but it wouldn't matter too much. It looks like it's just about to happen, but Matty sides his knight up, looking for the sacrifice. Promotion does not come through. Instead, Matteo pushing his king's pawn now. This looks like it will allow Matty to promote first. Matteo sides his queen down now, attacking this knight. And wow, Matty looks like he's been doing some opening prep. This move allows the bishop to defend the knight. And wow, Matteo not noticing this diagonal is the way that it is. And he thinks he's taking a free knight, but no, he's just losing a queen. So now Matty's up a queen for knight. That's 8 points of material. But Matteo gets to promote, so it's just 3 now. He's not out of the game yet, except, of course, Matty promotes, and it's back to that same +8. This knight does fall, though. No longer defended by this bishop that was here. But he finds this move with the bishop. It attacks this rook. Doesn't do too much else. It is attacking this pawn. Matteo, though, just defending the pawn. I guess not realizing that this rook is undefended. The rook falls down, and in this position, Matteo just resigns. Very quick. This might have been only an 11-move game. Probably the shortest we've seen, certainly in quarterfinals. Of course, the 5-move checkmate from Oreo Phallus in qualifiers, a bit quicker. But anyways, now Matty up 2-0 in quick fashion. He goes back to the black pieces in game 3. Let's see if he can close it out. All he needs is a draw. Matteo needing to win the next 2 games if he wants to take the match to Armageddon. All right, so now in game 3, Matteo with the white pieces pushing the queen's pawn first once again. Both players now pushing the queen's pawn, actually. King's pawn push. And Matty now doing what Matteo did in game 2 and going for this promotion. He now has the lead, so he'll promote first, but he gives it up, instead pushing his king's pawn now. Another pawn push from Matteo. The knight comes to attack. Matteo simply keeps pushing. Now this move, again, looking at this diagonal, he can bring this queen in. It won't stop promotion, though. The bishop attacking the knight, so maybe the point of this move, instead to bring the queen, can't quite bring it here because of the knight, so he just blocks. Now if he brings the queen in, that'll be fine. Bishop comes in to attack the knight. The queen move will still work. Let's see if he does it. He doesn't. Instead, just attacking this bishop, but not allowing promotion. It'll be a trade at the very least. Matteo doesn't promote, instead sliding his queen over. I believe this just gives up, it does give up a bishop, but promotion comes, so Matty doesn't go for it. Instead now checking the king. Knight comes into block. Now this knight, not sure the exact point of, but just 1 move away from attacking this bishop, and it gets into the game kind of quickly. Matteo doing the same, but on this side, now defending this bishop. Another pawn push from Matty, and Matteo castles in usual fashion. The bot absolutely hates this move. Matty just sliding his bishop back to the central ring, and Matteo goes for this trade. It will force Matty to double his pawns up, and that's what happens. Now the queen sliding in, and I wouldn't trust the eval bar just now. I believe it sees some kind of weird checkmate that doesn't actually exist. But anyways, now Matty's queen coming up just 1 square. This pawn was hanging, and it's no longer. Queen now sliding up to attack maybe this pawn, or this knight, actually. It's definitely attacking this knight. Matty, maybe not seeing it, but even if this knight falls, promotion will come right after. So the pawn does fall. Instead of promoting, though, this bishop slides up, defending the promotion square. Matteo does not promote, instead now connecting both sides of the central ring. Queen comes into attack. Matteo just sliding his queen over now, putting another attacker on this pawn, but I think this knight still hangs. So the knight falls, and Matteo's still not promoting because that would be a queen blunder now. Instead, just pushing this pawn up. This rook sliding in, taking advantage of this open file, and the pawn now defending the queen. Now this promotion can happen, but Matty gets to it first and now defends this square. Matteo putting another defender on the central ring. Now Matty going for this queen trade. Matteo, of course, taking back. This knight now not doing anything quite yet, but the idea maybe if promotion happens, this knight move is a fork, although then this rook falls, so that doesn't really work. We'll see what happens, but there are some ideas with this knight move. Promotion comes through, bishop takes first, then the rook takes instead of the bishop, rook takes, and then bishop takes. Now this move comes out. Instead of being a proper fork, it attacks this bishop and also defends this promotion square. Matteo's final rook coming in to attack it, but the bishop hangs, so it comes down. Promotion comes in though. Matty just pushing. He gives up this knight and he pushes again. This rook now attacking the next square. It does move. Now this is kind of, it's not hanging actually. This bishop, let's see if Matteo sees it. He's had some trouble seeing the diagonals and it looks like he missed it. This bishop, after this rook takes, this knight's going to take, and that's just a free knight for Matty. Now he's up 1 point of material. The only disadvantage being that he doesn't have the central ring. Now Matteo pushing another pawn, and Matty bringing his rook to the second central ring. Another pawn push, and Matty has significantly more time than Matteo. 4 minutes and 17 seconds to 1 minute 27. Matteo's going to have to start playing pretty fast here. Matty pushing this pawn, Matteo doing the same. It's almost a pawn race, but this rook comes in quickly to attack. But this pawn just keeps pushing. A pawn falls. Looks like it was just hanging, but this pawn just keeps pushing. Now another pawn hangs, but it doesn't fall. Instead, just pushing. Another push comes through. Matteo now bringing his rook to the central ring. He can't quite keep his pawn from promoting because the bishop defends, and that must have been why this pawn decided to push. But now this free pawn falls, but that's going to allow promotion from Matty. He doesn't do it though. Instead, moving his knight up, this check wouldn't have quite blundered the knight because the king can move and defend it at the same time. But we see Matteo now bringing another knight in, and now promotion comes through for Matty. Matteo now pushes a pawn one square, and Matty, taking advantage of the central ring, now attacks this knight that's hanging. The pawn pushes to attack it, but he doesn't take the knight, instead just blocking promotion. Of course, he doesn't have control over the center, so he has to do this first. The rook now sliding back with check. The king sliding out of the way. Matteo only with 43 seconds left. He slides the rook all the way over here, attacking this bishop. The rook slides up to defend, and after another pawn push, from both players actually, this rook comes down to attack this pawn. The pawn pushes out of the way. Now with 30 seconds left, Matteo attacks the pawn in this direction, but it's still defended. Bishop comes to attack the rook. It simply slides out of the way. This king now attacking the rook, slides out of the way again, now attacking this pawn, although it's defended by the knight. Pawn pushes again from both players. Matteo with 23 seconds. Matty promotes now. Matteo trying to promote, but this rook move now, not sure if that's potentially a misclick. I believe this pawn is just hanging, but the knight moves out of the way. This pawn actually potentially, no, it was hanging. But anyways, after this pawn falls, as it is no longer protected by this knight, it looks like Matteo either timed out or resigned. So with 2 games coming down to absolute time scrambles, and the second game, of course, being very quick, Matty takes the series 3-0, marking the end of the quarterfinals, and Matty with the most convincing win, the only person not to even allow a draw, and he's going to meet Toby KYR in the semifinals. Of course, we also have both of our semifinals matches decided. It's going to be Toggled versus Tech V&V and Toby KYR versus MattyZero. Those will both be streamed live over the next week. Announcement coming relatively soon with those times, so be on the lookout for those. But anyways, thanks for watching. Congrats again to Matty, and hope to see you back here for the semifinals.